Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maury, and I'm here with my husband Jim. And it is Sunday evening, so it is time to sit down and talk about artificial intelligence. I make it sound like we never talk about it until Sunday evenings, and that is actually not true.
It's not even close to true. We talk about it a lot.
Yes, we do. So, we are going to cover some news, and then we're going to talk about something that we were discussing this morning that we thought was just really interesting. So, let's start with the news. Let's start with the thing that is on everyone's mind: deep fakes.
Been talking about them for a long time, you and I. Seems like it's finally arrived.
Well, it arrived a
And
few weeks ago, but
it arrived actually months and months
months
and
and months
months
and months
ago.
ago, but it finally arrived to the point that everybody knows about it now.
Because
Two things.
Taylor Swift, which the first porn deepfake that I ever heard about was the girl that plays Hermione, Emma Watson.
Yes.
She was one of the first ones that was victims of it, and she's popular, but she didn't have the kind of following that Taylor Swift does. So it got a lot of attention because, well, first of all, they've gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
This particular headline we're looking at actually had to do with a company that used, they weren't really good deep fakes. They were more like a likeness of Selena Gomez and Taylor Swift to sell cookware. It was a
Yes.
French
French
Belgian
company.
company, something. The point is that people are going to use deepfakes for nefarious purposes. However, the latest one is particularly horrendous because it's like trying to play whack-a-mole to get rid of it. The CEO of Google, the CEO of Microsoft, even Joe Biden mentioned it. Pornographic stuff with Taylor Swift. Basically, they take. I don't know if they're generating the full likeness or they just put her face on somebody who's already in porn. I'm not sure how they do it, but women have to worry about that. I mean, if a guy gets deep fake porn generated on him,
He's not going to care.
it's well, he may care, and it could cost him his job. I mean, it could still be bad for a guy, but for a female, it's worse. And those are the more likely victims anyway, I think, is females. So they're talking about now that it's got all this attention, maybe some of these big companies. I think a lot of the porn was popping up on Twitter/X or whatever they call themselves now, and they had been trying not to, when Elon Musk took over, he was saying they were going to do less
Censorship.
censorship, but that had a lot to do with
The
people,
elections and stuff.
people on the ultra right saying they were getting censored and not getting their voice out and all this other stuff. I'm not sure he really thought about the whole porn problem, but anyway, you get the idea.
Yes.
The problem is that maybe now there'll be enough attention applied to it that they'll actually try to figure out a solution that doesn't make the problem worse or just make it go deeper underground, or maybe pushing it deeper underground is a good thing.
As we mentioned last week, the Joe Biden phone call was a huge deep fake into New Hampshire right before the primary,
Yeah, that was
Republican
voice only.
primaries. And it was voice only, but it was a call that went out that was his voice that really wasn't his voice. And it was very convincing about how you should not go vote in that primary election. Just save your vote
Yeah,
for
save
the
up your
actual,
vote like you're
save
banking it
your
up.
vote for the presidential election.
Yeah,
So we are just not going to be able to be 100% sure about what it is that we're hearing. Of course, we haven't really been 100% sure for a long time. It's
yeah,
just that now with artificial intelligence, it's a
it can
lot
look and sound
harder.
like it can
It's a
look and
lot
sound like.
harder to be able to, tell the real from the fake.
That's why we've got the secret code words with the kids, right? We tell
Yes,
them
exactly. Always do that. Always
yes.
have some secret.
So, anyway, moving on. I'm only going to briefly touch on this headline as far too expensive to replace humans in most jobs. The reason I put this in here is because as you well know, my obsession is the digital divide.
Yes.
And this is another example of it reinforces what we've talked about, which is AI is expensive to operate.
It's very
And
expensive.
because it's expensive to operate, it tends to be limited to people that can afford it. Well, in this case, they're talking about how it'd be great to have this, interactive AI, but as Jared found out with the Japanese tutor that I made with GPTs, when it kicked him off after 15 minutes,
He'd reached his token
He'd
limit.
reached his token limit. The operating of these things is expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and it means that only people with money are going to have access to the best models because they're more expensive to operate. Anyway, it just reinforced that idea of the cost of
Now, this was
operating.
a study that MIT had
This
done.
was it. Yes, this was a study at MIT. So it was in Fortune magazine or Fortune.com, and I just thought it was relevant. So moving along to more educational focused and research, because education and research tend to go hand in hand. The National Science Foundation, 10 federal agencies, the pioneering path of AI research. Joe Biden's project secures industry titan support. Basically, this is the National Science Foundation joining forces with other agencies to do research into AI.
And they're collaborating to advance this research and accessibility so that they have access to all the AI so that they can then do the research.
Yeah, and a lot of that cost is going to be access to clean data.
Right.
Um, but anyway, it's one of those things that every country's doing. I'm just glad we're doing something with it as well. Along the same veins, UT News, since Rachel went to UT, I actually went to UT for a while as well.
Yes.
Rachel went to UT. New Texas Center will create generative AI computing cluster among the largest of its kind. So the race is on to have the biggest cluster.
Yes. The biggest capacity,
The,
the power, right?
that's what the cluster's
That's
all
what the
about.
cluster's
That's
all
what the
about.
cluster's all about. This one's going to have 600 NVIDIA H100 GPUs, which compared to the 350,000 that Facebook has, seems rather small, but it's still a lot of horsepower
Okay,
to
so
do
let's
a.
talk about NVIDIA for a second. An H100 GPU.
That is when you're doing, as you saw when Jared and I were working on our own local models, when you're doing, it takes a lot of memory, but it's not regular memory. It's typically memory that's GPU, video RAM, which is a very high speed memory.
A lot of
And you
gamers.
and you got to have the problem is the gamer cards are kind of sad
Uh-huh.
when it comes to the amount of memory that they have compared to what you need for
For
AI.
AI. And that's
Oh,
what I'm
it's
saying.
massive.
How much do you think an NVIDIA H100 GPU?
It depends on the amount of memory. It could cost 30 grand depending on the memory. I
And they're going
mean,
to have 600 of them.
they're gonna have 600 of them, and they're probably not getting the little guys. They're probably getting the ones with lots and lots of memory. You
Mm-hmm.
tend to want to load, which is what Jared and I were finding, is you really want to load the whole model that you're playing with. We were only playing with a small model that had 7 billion parameters, which loaded to about 14 gigs. There's a trillion parameters. Some of these larger models, they have 96 or 120 gigs of VRAM. Of course, they can't load the whole thing in, but they can load more of it in, the size of it into these language models in order to do the research. So
Hmm.
this is a very expensive proposition.
Wonder where they're going to put it.
That is a good question. I'm assuming in the computer science. It says in Cockrell School's Chandra Family Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering building.
Okay.
I don't remember which one that was. They didn't call it that whenever I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't remember where that. Rachel could tell us where it is. But
Yes.
anyway, I'm going to just kind of digital trends. Holograms are coming to university classrooms is another headline. I don't think that has anything to do with AI. It
But
just
it's just
sounded
really
really
cool.
cool
Yeah.
to have this links the project claim that students will prefer a 3D image beamed live from overseas to a video call. So basically, it allows you to think about it. Years ago, when we had that research, we were talking to that we had that class. We were talking to the research people that were in they were doing that dig up in Dallas, and then
Yes.
once we did the communicating with people in Antarctica. Think about it if they could come in with holographic.
Actually be 3D in the
I
room.
want to give virtual trainings and never have to leave my workshop.
Oh, hush.
That would be so cool.
No, you like to travel some.
So, Department of Defense.
Okay, now this is a scary one.
We're going to go to the last two that I picked for this week are the scary ones. One is
Well, deep fakes are scary too, but
well,
this one's like really scary.
Deepfakes are not. They're scary, but they're not world-ending kind of scary. They're just bad.
Right. Okay.
Battle looming between AI and counter AI. When I first saw that headline, this is from the U.S. Department of Defense, defense.gov. When I first thought that, I thought maybe it's people that hate AI versus people that like. It's not. It's cyber warfare. Basically,
they're pitting one AI against another AI.
And you knew that was coming. And this really sounds like. Can you say, what
Skynet?
Skynet? Yeah. Ugh. This sounds like a really bad thing because that means everybody's going to try to make theirs smarter and smarter to counter the other country's smarter. This sounds like a bad
And that's
idea.
what they're doing. The Department of Defense is like, hey, we're going to get these guys in here and we're going to get them to be super competitive to see
Yes.
which AI can beat the other AI. And then what
Yeah.
the end result is they're looking for one of the most powerful AIs they can possibly get,
Yes. And an AI that doesn't mind being a bad AI.
just so it can win.
Yes.
Sounds scary, but
This one's the scariest one I found of all. This just seems
I,
like a really
when you
bad
first
idea.
told me about this, it's in a thing called Tom's Guide, um, AI for all.
Yes, it is a new AI model called Morpheus One that claims to induce lucid dreaming, like the movie Inception. Remember that movie?
Yes, I remember the movie. It
And
was scary.
I'm sitting there going, this thing actually takes like your current reading from your brain or something, and it uses that to feed the signal in to have make you have lucid dreams.
Now, Morpheus is the Greek god of dreams. And it says in the article that it's an AI model that's been trained on 8 GPUs over 2 days using the same underlying transformer technology that powers ChatGPT, and Midjourney.
That's
And
correct.
then what it's doing is it's
It's
doing brain stimulation.
taking your current brain activity and generates shaped sound waves that react to the current brain state, and then it stimulates your through this headband thing to cause you to have lucid dreams. I don't know, that just seems like a really, again, we're gonna classify that as a really bad idea.
Now, Inception.
Morpheus thinks it's a good idea.
Now, Inception was the movie. Google this real quick.
No, I knew what Inception
Okay,
was.
what was the Inception movie?
That's the one where they could get into people's dreams. In that case, they were trying to get in these people's dreams to get them to do something that they wanted them to do. It's a way of pushing people to do things
To
they
do
wanted to
things.
do.
Wasn't there one a really long time ago to where a person could get into somebody's dreams and that's how they were
Yeah,
assassinating
that's the
people?
assassination one. That was actually good.
It was really, really
That had
old.
Dennis
Dennis Quaid.
Quaid,
Yes.
and
That was like an
they were
80s
trying
movie.
they were trying to kill the president by getting into his
Yes.
dreams, and they made nightmares, and
Yes.
that was actually pretty good
It
though.
was actually it's an
For the
80s
time, it was an
movie,
'80s movie.
but I mean the same kind of concept here. You're like, yeah,
Yes.
no, that's a little too scary for me.
Yeah. So, what were we going to talk about this week? We were going to talk about. I woke up this morning thinking about AI. Surprisingly,
Mm-hmm.
about four. You did too, though. You wrote down notes early in the morning because you were
I
thinking
did.
about
I
a.
finally got up. I woke up about 1 and I finally got up and had to actually go write down what was going through my brain. It had to do with the presentation that we're giving. We're going to be at the TCEA conference on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of not this week, but the week after.
We're spending a lot of time there. Mostly, we go to those things because we really need to meet vendors
Well, we've been
for the
going
school.
for
We've been
years
going
and
for
years.
years. We didn't go last year because we had an ice storm.
Right.
And it's hard to get vendors to come to Llano sometimes. So I'm
Really
always
is.
looking for new vendors
Really
out
is.
there.
And
I'm
we have a
interested to
lot of
see.
current vendors that are there that have, hey, are you going to
Yes.
be here? We're gonna visit with them for a while, see
Yes.
some of the latest
But
stuff that
while
they have
we're
out there.
there,
We've been asked to speak, so we're going to speak a couple of times. So we're preparing those presentations. Or we've given these presentations a lot, but I wanted to tweak them. I wanted to make some changes to it. I wanted to update them
yes.
because
So you thought about
everything
that's what you woke
changes.
up thinking
So that's why I
about.
woke up.
So if you're going to be at the TCA in Austin, we're
Yes,
presenting on Monday at 3:30
in the Google Fried Tech room
and then I'm co-presenting
on
on
Wednesday with
Wednesday at
Harper
3:30
ISD.
with Harper ISD.
And you're also on a panel
I'm on a
with
panel somewhere in there. That's
GTS.
Tuesday, isn't it?
I think that's on Monday. That's
Is
on
it?
Monday.
Oh, it is
before
because
our
there's two of them
presentation.
on Monday.
Yes.
Right.
So you're going to be on a panel discussion with like Lenovo and some of the other bigger companies.
Talking about AI stuff.
Talking about
My
AI.
favorite topic.
Yes. So speaking of
So
talking
you
about
woke
AI,
up early in the morning and you were thinking about a presentation. You got up and started writing things.
yes, I had to. Otherwise, I would have just laid there forever.
Well, my thoughts were similar to that, except mine was about a guy named Claude Shannon, which you'd have to look him up to know who he is. Most people don't know, but he was one of the fathers of our current information age. He had a lot of the math that we use to decide how much data we can put in a particular data channel
Mm-hmm.
and how much you have to put in there to overcome the noise of the channel. He came up with a lot of those equations. The math is smarter than I am. I'm not capable of understanding all of what he did, but information theory, he's the father of information theory. what I was thinking about this morning was because I had read this article and you'd sent me one as well. We were talking about the effectiveness of Google search going down, of search
Yes.
in general, but
Yes.
Google search, because there's so much I call it noise. There's so much stuff being generated by AI that it's getting hard to tell the difference between the AI stuff. It's getting hard to find this stuff that you might be looking for that's not AI generated. And that's not to say everything that AI generated is bad, but in many cases, it tends to be kind of shallow.
So tell me what Amazon did that kind of backs this
Well,
up.
that's what was really interesting about it was I read that Amazon is having, when you can self-publish on Amazon a book. Well, Amazon is having trouble. People are submitting so many books that are AI generated that they said that they're going to limit you to only be able to submit 3 books a day.
One person, 3 books.
3 books a day.
So they've basically
They're just plowing out books.
they've written a chat bot, a chat,
They're using AI.
and they're using AI,
and they're
and
just
they're just pumping out books.
What's worse is they're copying other people's books
and just changing the names and stuff.
Well, they don't do it exactly. They just take the AI. This is what I read. Now, I don't know if it's true. I don't have hard evidence, but they're basically saying I could take your writing style. I could take one of your books and dump a bunch of information from one of your books into it to train it, and then have it rewrite a story, but using the same kind of writing style, which you and I have seen. We've played with that before. With our own writing style, we'll say, we want to write a second thing based on our
or
first,
a letter or an email,
or a letter or an email.
Yes.
So we've played with that. We've seen how it works. So but anyway, they're just generating tons of junk. Well, the question becomes
and that's too much noise. There's too much noise.
That's what I was actually talking to what I call the Oracle, which is ChatGPT at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. My discussion was, is there a point where there's so much noise that the channel gets filled? You basically can't process it anymore. There's so much junk going out there. And it seems like could become a legitimate problem. I know I've read that Google search effectiveness is going down. So if you're not looking at AI right now because you think, well, I've got Google, why do I need it? Google's really kind of fascinated with AI. I've read that some of the people that have left Google and some people that are there are saying Google is obsessed with AI. And they said they're ignoring search, and that's kind of their cash cow, it is.
So they're not taking care of it.
So they better figure this out. If that's true, and there's so much junk being pumped in there that people are when you do a Google search now, you're picking up all this lightweight junk that people are just posting tons of that's AI generated. Because I find a lot of the AI stuff, I'm starting to recognize it.
Right.
It's got a particular format. It's very, very shallow, lightweight information. I'm not saying you shouldn't use AI. I'm saying that if that's all you're using, then I don't want to read what you wrote.
Right.
If I want to have a discussion with ChatGPT, I don't need you to print it for me. I can do that on my own. I want the person to add some value. If you can't add value to what you're writing and you need the AI to have all the value, then I don't want to read what you've got to write. I don't think it's that interesting.
I agree.
Maybe I'm just old fashioned, but I think humans add value.
No, I agree 100%. Now, something that you did say that I thought was interesting is you were talking about a human brain that reads a really long paper is able to synthesize that information and take 5 points from that paper. And that's like a normal brain, a normal outcome is that you can usually read something and you can come up with 5 key points. But the more that you put in, the fewer the key points that you can get out. So it just kind of reinforces that the more that's getting dumped in to the internet, that's just garbage.
It's taking the place of the good stuff.
Taking the place of the good stuff.
And you can't process all of it. I mean, we've talked about it. I've mentioned it many, many times. I had a boss a long time ago that said this to me. He said that taking in all that information is like drinking from a fire hose. And if you put your face in too far, it's going to blow your lips off. And so, but in his case, we were talking, and this was before the World Wide Web.
Right.
This was, earlier when I was an apps engineer, and we were talking about just trying to ingest all that information that we had to ingest about the technology that I was the apps engineer for at the time, which was, Intel and microchip, and I was having all this data flooding in. Think about it now, but the amount of data that floods in now, and then you're trying to price, it's insane.
Yeah.
That I don't I don't think you can do it without AI anymore. And that's kind of like that DoD thing where they're using AI to counter AI. It's almost like Google has to improve their search in order to be able to find the stuff that you want to find using AI, because AI is generating so much junk that you can't. It's
Isn't
crazy.
there a company that you were talking about the other day that's basically almost like certifying
Data. It is. They
data?
partnered with IBM. Name started with a C. I can't think of what it was. I think there's big money in that. I think that's
Because
because you talked to.
you had mentioned this to me about 6 months ago
Yes,
about how this was going to be the next big thing, and
it
I'm sitting here
is.
going, Jim, why did you not do something with
I don't
this?
had no idea. If I was an investor, would I still be working? If I was rich, I wouldn't have to work for a school district all the time. I don't work at a school district to be rich.
Okay.
Anyway, my what I said to you was, and you saw some stuff about synthetic data recently, which kind of backed it up. It's that noise. They're generating so much junk that the people that want to train the AI models are having a hard time finding clean data. So this company was partnering with IBM because IBM has Watson, which is their AI they've had a long time, and they're trying to get certified clean data. That's the next thing. Certified clean data. How much data do you have? Well, the value of it is literally going to be based on how clean it is and the quantity. Well, the cleanness is also going to be based on domain knowledge. In other words, Jacob as a paramedic would be better at evaluating the quality of medical
Medical.
knowledge, or a doctor, than you and I would. Whereas I would be better at evaluating, in your case, it'd be education, data that you might want to use for whatever reason. So each one of these different data types is going to require somebody with domain knowledge in order to kind of certify that it's good. But how do you do that if there's a lot of data? I mean, you're going to have some tool, maybe an AI tool, to help you figure out how to test the data for cleanness.
What have they been doing? I know that for a while they were talking about doing watermarks, almost like a watermark
They're still
that
talking
is
about the problem with watermarks. It's anytime you try to hide data like that, if I can get an image with it and an image without it, then I can figure out what the watermark is and remove it. So if you watermarking, it's you use an AI because AIs are really good with patterns. You could use an AI to help you remove watermarks from the things that you're watermarking. So,
it's not there yet.
well, it's not. There's a lot of work going on that, and I think certified human is going to become a thing.
Hmm.
I mean,
So this morning, I know that
CH.
you,
There's got to be an
I think it
acronym in there
was,
somewhere.
I think it was this morning that you were texting one of our friends because you realized that there's no way I could like continue to talk about it, but you were talking about images and
Yes,
you had kind of gone down the rabbit hole on how images are generated by
I pulled a muscle in my head.
artificial
Pulled a
intelligence.
muscle in my
And
head.
it was very interesting.
It's very hard. Be when you talk about large language models and transformers and stuff, text, I understand better now why training an AI with text, what they call text corpus, which is all the text data, I understand better now why that's easier
Than image
than
generation.
imaging, because what they do is you take an image or lots and lots of images, and basically you take that image and you inject noise into it till the image is nothing but randomized noise. And I thought this was based on physics equations, and I was babbling on to you about thermodynamics equations and atomic motion and all this other stuff. And there's the diffusion models, which is what like
Mid
Midjourney
journey.
uses, and probably maybe I don't think Dolly uses it. I think it uses something different. But it's stability. Stable Diffusion is a company I think that's developed that. But anyway, they take this image and they generate this noise into it till all the pixels become just random pixels. So they're noise, and they use that process of reversing that back out, putting it in and reversing out as a way to train the neural nets. And so, and the analogy that always comes to me was that sculptor that lived a long time ago that used to say he did not sculpt stone into beautiful images. He just exposed the beautiful image from the
That
stone
was in it.
that was in it. It sounded like that. It
Hmm.
basically sounds like, because when it's generating a new image for you, it uses that process of this. You give it a seed image, and it does that same process, and then it reverses it back out, but you never get the exact same image twice because it's all about randomness. It's all about stochastic um, probability, stochastic processes, I think is a better way of putting it. Basically, which says that over time, random events tend to form a pattern
Right.
if it's not truly random.
Right.
And within that pattern, like a Gaussian curve, within that pattern is how they use that pattern, that process to generate these new images. I wish I could tell you I understand it better than that, but I still can't figure out how that
Well,
works.
considering that you said about 25 words that I have no idea
I'm
what you're
telling you,
talking about.
it's like I was talking to Amy and I was texting back and forth with her and I told her I think I sprained a muscle in my head. That's usually when I'm playing with technology, I mean I understand it to the level some PhD guy does, but I pretty much get the gist of how it works to the point where I've got a mental model of how it works. I'm not getting
Still
it.
pondering on
I'm
that
not
one.
getting it with the image generator. I didn't realize it was that complicated. It's very cool though. The whole idea of it taking random noise and generating the image out of that's cool.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Anyway,
we are going to call it for the
well, hold
day,
on.
for the evening.
We're not going to do this next week. Why are we not doing this?
Well, no, we're not going to sit down next
Oh,
week.
that's true.
We're going to attempt to do our podcast from our phone or possibly from our daughter's house
because we're going to be at the
because we're at the
TCA
conference. So we're going to do it on the go.
And
then after that, we are actually setting up a little bit of a studio area to where we are going to start not just doing our podcast as a video cast or as an audio cast, but we're going to go ahead and attempt to do a little bit as a video cast.
holographic.
No, not holographic.
Holographic would be cool.
No, we're going to YouTube it. So
you can do 3D images on YouTube.
You can work on that.
That would be cool.
Yes, you work on that. So this is Maurie, and I'm here with my husband Jim, and we really appreciate you listening in as we kind of babbled a little bit tonight about AI.
Did you fix our Apple problem?
No, I did not. I am working on it. I was researching it earlier. Apparently, all of our podcasts are going to Spotify, but there's a few of them that are not getting
Most
put
of them
over
are not
to
going.
Apple.
We got to get them over to Apple.
So I'm working.
We're going to fix that. See, that's your tech problem instead of mine.
Oh, you enjoyed that way too
I
much.
do actually enjoy that you have a problem that I don't have to solve.
So this is Maurie, and I'm here with my husband Jim, and we hope that you guys have a marvelous rest of the week.